Rain fell in silver lines across the city of Baltimore, washing the streets in ripples of light from the neon diners and flickering billboards. The air smelled of gasoline, wet asphalt, and fried food from the little stalls that stood stubbornly along the curb. At the corner of West Madison and Pine, beneath a torn umbrella, a young woman worked quietly behind a portable food cart. Her hands were swift, flipping sizzling patties, her eyes half hidden beneath a black cap. A cardboard sign read, "Tasha's Burgers, $5 only." To most people passing by, she was just another street vendor fighting the night chill. But she wasn't. Inside the faded leather jacket she wore was a micro-transmitter the size of a coin, connected to a hidden earpiece. Every few minutes, her gloved thumb tapped twice on the cart handle, a silent signal that everything was normal. Tasha Williams had spent 6 months undercover, pretending to be a roadside food seller. Her mission wasn't small. Somewhere in this district, under the cover of a charity front, a former arms dealer named Victor Hensley was rebuilding his network, smuggling military tech and selling it to whoever could pay. Tonight, one of his couriers was supposed to make contact here. She was ready. Then came the reporter. He arrived in a white sedan, camera crew trailing behind. The van's lights were harsh and arrogant, cutting through the rain. The reporter, Derek Miles, was a local celebrity, known for his street exposés. He was tall, in a gray trench coat, his hair slicked back in defiance of the drizzle. He was hunting for viral footage, something that would make the morning broadcast explode. He spotted Tasha's cart. "Hey, let's check this out," he told his cameraman, already rehearsing his grin. He strutted up, waving. "Evening, ma'am. Baltimore News 7. Mind if we talk about your business?" Tasha's eyes lifted, calm and polite. She said, "Sure," voice steady, southern accent soft. She didn't like cameras, but she couldn't risk attention. Still, her cover mattered more than her comfort. "Want a burger?" He laughed too loud. "Maybe after you answer a few questions. You sell here every night?" "Yes, sir." "How long you been doing this?" He motioned to the cameraman. "Get closer. Zoom in." She hesitated, spatula midair. "About 6 months." He gave a mocking whistle. 6 months flipping burgers on a sidewalk, huh? That's dedication. His tone carried that sharp, condescending humor his viewers loved. He turned to the camera. "Folks, this is what hard times look like in our city. Young people, bright future ahead, end up on the streets cooking mystery meat for pocket change." The crew laughed quietly. Tasha's jaw tightened. He pressed further. "What's your dream, sweetheart? You ever think maybe you could do something bigger than this? Maybe get an actual job instead of pretending to run a restaurant?" She said nothing. Her eyes lowered, hiding the flash of anger. He wasn't done. He gestured to her sign. $5 burgers. Let's test the merchandise, shall we?" He bit into one she just finished, exaggerated a grimace, and spat dramatically to the side. "Oh, man, you call that food? You could kill someone with this grease bomb." The camera caught everything. Her silence, his laughter, the humiliation carved into the scene. Then Derek said the line that would later make the internet burn. "Maybe she should try smiling instead of scowling. It might actually help her sell something." The camera cut. The rain thickened. He walked away, smug and careless, stepping through puddles like he owned the street. Tasha stood still for a long moment, burger smoking in her hand. Inside her earpiece, a calm male voice whispered, "Control to Delta 9. You okay?" She pressed the cart handle twice. "I'm fine." But she wasn't. That night, his video went live. By morning, it had 500,000 views. "Reporter exposes rude street vendor," the title screamed across social feeds. Comments poured in. "She looks so cold. What's wrong with people these days? She should be grateful he gave her attention."
Derek smiled at his reflection in the mirror of the news station. Ratings were up. He'd already booked an interview on a national morning show. He had no idea he'd just mocked one of the most dangerous operatives in the U.S. intelligence network. At HQ, Tasha's handler, Agent Ramirez, was fuming. "You sure you want to stay in position after that stunt?" "I can't pull out now. The courier is still coming. If I disappear, the network goes underground again." "Understood, but you're compromised. Everyone's watching that clip." "I'll manage. He doesn't know who I am." 3 nights later, the courier arrived. A man in a leather jacket, nervous, eyes scanning the corners. He ordered a burger, handed her a 20, and said quietly, "For my boss, double ketchup." That was the phrase. She turned, pretending to reach for sauce. Her wrist tapped the transmitter twice, target in sight. But before she could finish the handoff, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Well, look who it is, the Burger Queen herself." Derek Miles, microphone in hand, cameraman in tow. Tasha froze. "What are you doing here again?" she asked, her tone sharper this time. "Oh, I thought I'd check to see if you learned how to smile yet." He laughed, motioning to the cameraman. "We're doing a follow-up. My audience loved you." The courier's face changed. He looked at her, then at the camera. Panic flared in his eyes. "You brought the media?" he hissed. "You crazy?" Tasha turned toward him, whispering urgently, "Wait." But it was too late. The courier dropped the wrapped package he carried, a small metal case, and bolted down the street. "Hey, what was that about? Is this part of the act?" Tasha grabbed her phone, muttered under her breath, "Control, target fleeing east on Madison." Then she ran. Her boots splashed through puddles, rain cutting across her vision. The courier ducked into an alley, shoving trash cans aside. She followed, fast, agile, training taking over. Her jacket tore as she vaulted a fence. He turned, drew a knife, swung wildly. She blocked, twisted his wrist, slammed him into the wall. The case clattered to the ground.
"Where's Hensley?" she demanded. He spat blood. You're not a burger girl." "No," she said, "and you just blew 6 months of work." Before she could finish, a van screeched into the alley. 2 men jumped out, guns drawn. She dove behind a dumpster, firing a compact silenced pistol she'd pulled from her apron pocket. 1 man dropped, the other fired blindly, sparks bouncing off metal. She rolled, hit him in the shoulder, then in the leg. Rain washed the blood away. Sirens wailed in the distance. When she looked up, Derek was at the alley's mouth, camera still rolling. "What the hell?" he began. "Get out of here," she shouted. But he didn't move. He just stood there, staring, as realization dawned. You're CIA." She grabbed the metal case, sprinted toward him, and slammed the camera from his hands. "You saw nothing," she hissed. Then she vanished into the night. The next day, News 7 suspended Derek for unauthorized field interference. His footage was confiscated by federal agents. His bosses said little, but whispers filled the office. He messed with the wrong people. He tried to laugh it off, but the image of her, eyes sharp, cold, trained, wouldn't leave his mind. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't weak. She looked at him like he was the fool. 3 days later, Derek found his car vandalized, tires slashed, windshield shattered. On the driver's seat sat a folded napkin. "Keep your mouth shut." That was all. He went to the police, but they shrugged. Probably some prank, maybe a fan. He couldn't sleep that night. Every noise made him flinch. Every shadow outside his window looked alive. Meanwhile, Tasha was being briefed. Ramirez wasn't happy. "You almost blew the op." "I showed up again. I didn't expect him." "Do you realize what could have happened if he'd live-streamed that? Hensley would have disappeared for good." "I'll find him."
she said coldly, "and I'll make sure no one ever mocks me again." Derek tried to move on, but the world had changed. His fans had turned on him, accusing him of bullying, racism, arrogance. Someone leaked the full raw footage, including what happened right before he humiliated Tasha, the part his editors had cut, the part where he'd laughed at a homeless kid who'd asked for food. The internet devoured him. His sponsors backed out. His career started to crumble. Late one evening, he sat alone in a bar downtown, scrolling through hate comments. A woman slid onto the stool beside him. "You look like someone who just lost everything." He looked up. A stranger. Or maybe not. Her face was partly hidden beneath a cap, her voice low. "Do I know you?" he asked. "Not yet," she said with a faint smile, "but you will." He laughed bitterly. "You're not a reporter, are you?" "Something like that." She left a small folded napkin on the counter and walked away before he could stop her. He opened it. "You want a story worth telling? Follow the trail from Victor Hensley to Iron Harbor Warehouse. Midnight. Come alone." He looked up, but she was gone. Midnight came with fog and silence. Iron Harbor sat on the edge of the water, a forgotten industrial district, rusted cranes and empty docks. Derek arrived in his sedan, camera on the seat beside him. He wasn't sure why he came. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt, maybe both. He crept inside the warehouse. It smelled of salt, oil, and rot. A single hanging bulb flickered overhead. "Tasha?" he whispered. Footsteps echoed behind him. She emerged from the shadows, wearing tactical gear, eyes hard and focused. "You came," she said quietly. "What is this? Why am I here?" "Because you owe me," she said, "and you're going to help me catch the man who almost killed me last night." "I'm a journalist, not—" "You wanted the truth," she interrupted. "Here it is." She handed him a small device, a transmitter. "You plant this on the truck when it arrives. Then you leave. No questions." "Why me?" "Because they know my face now. You're the last person they'd suspect." He stared at her, torn between fear and fascination. "And if I refuse? Then you'll never get your reputation back. But if you do this, you might just save your soul." The rumble of an engine broke the silence. Headlights cut through the fog. A black truck rolled into the warehouse, 2 guards stepping out. Tasha melted into the shadows, signaling him silently. Now. Derek moved, heart pounding. He slipped around the crates, trying not to breathe too loudly. The guards unloaded heavy cases, talking in low tones. He crouched beside the truck's rear tire, pressed the transmitter under the frame, and froze. One guard turned. "Hey, who's there?" His pulse spiked. The guard stepped closer. Then a single suppressed shot cracked the air. The guard dropped, silent. Tasha emerged from the dark, weapon steady. "Go," she hissed. "Get out." He ran. Behind him more gunfire erupted, short bursts echoing against steel. He ducked behind his car, watching as she moved like a ghost through the smoke, taking them down one by one. No hesitation, no mercy. When it was over, she walked toward him, hair damp with sweat and rain. "The tracker's live," she said. "They'll trace Hensley's next shipment." He stared at her, trembling. "Who are you really?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Someone you should never have mocked." She turned to leave, but he caught her arm. "Wait, why involve me? You could have done this without me." She hesitated. Then softly, "Because people like you never listen until they see the truth for themselves." And then she was gone, fading into the fog. But that wasn't the end.
The next morning, federal raids swept through Baltimore's docks. News channels screamed headlines, arms trafficking network exposed, dozens arrested. Derek watched from his apartment, eyes wide. He'd been there. He'd helped. For the first time in his career, he didn't want credit. He wanted redemption. He opened his laptop and began to type. The woman behind the cart.
The article was raw, honest, nothing like his past work. He wrote about what he'd seen. Not her name, not her agency, but the strength, the silence, the dignity he'd mocked. It went viral again, but this time for the right reasons.
Still, she didn't reach out. Until one night, he found a note taped to his door. Stories change people. You're learning. Don't stop. And beneath it, a single burger wrapper. 2 months passed. Baltimore's winter crept in slow and quiet, wrapping the city in mist and thin frost. Derek Miles walked the harbor every morning now, coffee in hand, camera hanging from his neck, not as a reporter, but as a man trying to find something worth capturing again. His article, The Woman Behind the Cart, had changed everything. It was the first story he'd ever written that wasn't about clicks, drama, or exposure. It was about truth and remorse. The world saw him differently now. Some forgave him, others still called him fake. He didn't care anymore. The only opinion that mattered was hers, the undercover agent who vanished like smoke after that night. Tasha Williams. Sometimes he wondered if she'd been real at all. In Washington, D.C., Tasha sat in a dimly lit debriefing room inside a secure CIA facility. The walls were bare steel. A single fluorescent light hummed overhead. Across from her, Agent Ramirez flipped through a thick file marked Hensley Network Terminated. "You did good work," Ramirez said. "The data from that tracker led us to 3 major buyers. Hensley's on the run, but he's got nowhere left to go." Tasha leaned back, silent. The scar on her shoulder still ached from the Iron Harbor shootout. She'd been through worse, but this mission had burned her deeper than she expected. "Something's on your mind," Ramirez noted. She looked up. "We used a civilian. He volunteered. He didn't understand what he was walking into." "Maybe not," Ramirez said calmly. "But he helped close a case that's been open for 4 years. You should be thanking him." "I don't do thank yous," she said coldly, rising to leave. Ramirez smiled faintly. "You should learn. He's not the same man you met." That evening, she received a message on her secure channel, encrypted, but with a familiar signature code, a string that only one civilian she'd ever met could have guessed. It read simply, "If you ever need to tell your side, I'll listen. By DM." She didn't reply, but the message stayed in her mind like an echo. 3 weeks later, a name resurfaced, Victor Hensley. Interpol traced him to New Orleans, operating under a fake identity. The agency wanted him alive this time. He had information about a larger arms syndicate. Tasha was reassigned. The mission: locate, confirm, and extract. She landed in Louisiana under heavy rain, the air thick with the scent of swamp and bourbon. Her cover this time was simple. A traveling food vendor again, operating near the French market, blending with the chaos of street jazz and tourists. She thought she'd left that disguise behind, but fate had a cruel sense of humor. 2 days into surveillance, she spotted him, Hensley, older, heavier, hiding behind a beard and sunglasses, surrounded by 2 bodyguards. He was meeting a local contact, exchanging a case of data chips. She needed backup, but her radio was dead, interference from the storm. Then she heard a voice behind her. "Guess I've got a thing for street food." She turned, startled. Derek was there, holding an umbrella, half smiling like he knew how insane it looked. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "I told you, I listen, and I've been following the Hensley story. When I heard he resurfaced, I figured you'd be here." "You followed me across states?" she snapped. "Technically, I followed the story. This isn't a story, Derek. It's a kill zone." He hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Maybe you could use someone who's not on the radar this time. You said it yourself. I'm the last person they'd suspect." She stared at him. He was reckless, but there was courage under the fear now, something real. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but you do exactly what I say." He grinned faintly. "I'm learning." They followed Hensley through the crowded market, staying close enough to track, far enough to blend. Tasha's earpiece flickered with static, no contact from HQ. They were on their own. Hensley entered an old jazz club at the corner of Bourbon Street. 2 guards waited outside. Tasha leaned against a lamppost, pretending to check her phone. "Upstairs room, private balcony. He's meeting someone," she whispered. Derek glanced at her. "What's the plan?" "Get close enough to plant this." She handed him a micro-camera disguised as a lighter. "Table surveillance. 10 seconds, no more." He nodded, heartbeat thundering. "And if they catch me, they won't." He wasn't sure if that was reassurance or warning. He walked in, casual, pretending to light a cigarette. The guards eyed him but didn't stop him. He looked too ordinary to matter. Upstairs, he saw Hensley's reflection in the window, laughing, shaking hands with a man in a tailored suit. Derek placed the lighter on a nearby table, pretending to fumble with his phone. Done. He turned to leave. Then Hensley's voice froze him. "Don't I know you?" Derek turned, forcing a smile. "Don't think so, pal." Hensley frowned, studying him. "Wait, you're that TV guy, right? The reporter. The one who humiliated that girl. Yeah, I remember that clip. Man, that was gold." Derek's throat tightened. "That wasn't—" "Small world," Hensley said, voice low. "Guess fame gets you everywhere." Tasha's voice crackled faintly in her earpiece. "Derek, get out, now." Hensley's hand moved, not toward a handshake, but toward the gun under the table. Derek bolted. The first shot shattered a bindottle beside him. Chaos erupted. He crashed through the stairwell door, sprinting down the narrow steps. Outside, Tasha moved fast, grabbing his arm as he stumbled into the street. "They saw me," he gasped. "I noticed," she said grimly. "Move!" Bullets tore through the night, sparks flying from metal posts. She returned fire, covering their retreat. Tourists screamed, scattering. They ducked into an alley, lungs burning, hearts racing. "Congratulations," she said, panting. "You just got yourself a front-row seat to a federal manhunt." He laughed breathlessly. "Always wanted to be on the news." They escaped through the maze of side streets, disappearing into the old quarter. Tasha led them into an abandoned building, a collapsed warehouse near the docks. She sealed the door behind them.
"You okay?" she asked, scanning his arm. "Bruised ego, maybe," he said. "Otherwise, fine." She almost smiled. "You did good." He blinked. "Wait, was that a compliment?" "Don't get used to it." She checked the microcam feed on her phone. It was still transmitting. Hensley's voice came through, faint but clear. "Shipment arrives Friday. Coordinates match Dock 17. Same buyers as before." Got him. But before she could log the data, the feed cut. Static. They found it. "Now what?" "Now," she said, chambering her weapon, "we finish it." They stayed hidden until dawn. Rain drummed against the broken roof as she briefed him. "Hensley's moving the shipment tonight. If we lose him again, it'll take months to find him. You stay here." He frowned. "I'm not leaving you to do this alone. This isn't your fight. It became mine when I ruined your life on camera," he said quietly. "Let me help fix it." She looked at him, really looked at him. The arrogance was gone. What stood in front of her was a man stripped bare of ego, guilt driving him, heart steady. She sighed. "Fine, but if you get shot,
I'm not carrying you. Deal. Night fell again. Dock 17 lay at the edge of the industrial district, a graveyard of rusted containers and flickering lights. The air smelled of oil and salt water. They moved like shadows, crouching behind stacks of cargo. Ahead, a convoy of trucks waited. Hensley stood with 4 guards, overseeing crates being loaded onto a ship. Tasha whispered, "We need evidence, visual confirmation, then extraction." "I'll get the footage," Derek said, lifting his camera. "Stay low." He crawled closer, recording everything: faces, vehicles, serial numbers. Then, suddenly, headlights blazed behind them. A van screeched to a halt. More of Hensley's men poured out. "Damn," Tasha muttered. "They swept the perimeter." Gunfire erupted. She rolled behind a crate, returning fire in controlled bursts. Derek dove beside her, camera still in hand. "Stop filming," she yelled. "I can't. The world needs to see this." "Then the world will see you die." She threw her spare weapon. "You remember how to use one?" He swallowed hard. "Safety off, aim straight, don't blink? That's good enough." They fought side by side, her shots precise, his shaky but lucky. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted. A truck exploded near the pier, flames lighting the night. In the chaos, Hensley tried to flee toward the ship. Tasha spotted him. "Cover me!" She sprinted through the smoke, leaping over fallen crates. Derek fired to distract the guards. Hensley turned, shooting wildly. One bullet grazed her arm, tearing flesh. She grit her teeth, kept running. She tackled him at the pier's edge. The gun slid into the water. "End of the line," she said. He sneered. "You really think you've won? You have no idea who you're dealing with." She pressed her pistol to his chest. "Try me." He smiled coldly. "You take me, 10 others rise. This is how this world works, agent." She hesitated, not out of fear, but something deeper. The exhaustion of years of violence, deception, pretending to be what she wasn't. She lowered her weapon slightly. "Then let them rise. I'll be waiting." Behind her, Derek shouted, "Tasha!" She turned, too late. One of Hensley's men aimed from behind a container. The gun flashed. Derek tackled her to the ground. The bullet hit him instead. He collapsed in her arms, gasping, blood spreading fast. She shot the attacker dead, then pressed her hands over Derek's wound. "Stay with me," she said desperately. "You're okay. You're fine." He coughed, a weak smile on his lips. "Guess I'm finally making good news." "Don't you dare joke right now," she hissed, her voice breaking. Sirens wailed in the distance. Back up, finally. He looked at her, eyes soft. "You were right about stories. They can change people. Shut up and breathe." "I saw who you really are," she whispered. "You're not just an agent. You're human." Then his eyes closed. She screamed his name, but the sound drowned under the sirens. 3 days later, the news broke. Undercover operation ends with major arrests. International arms dealer captured. Hensley was in custody. The network was gone. But none of that mattered to Tasha. She sat in the hospital beside Derek's bed, the monitors beeping softly. He'd survived, barely. The bullet missed his heart by an inch. When he woke, the first thing he said was, "Do I still get a byline?" She laughed through tears. "You get a medal, idiot." "Medals don't trend," he joked weakly. "You're impossible." "Yeah," he said, smiling faintly, "but you didn't walk away this time." She looked at him, eyes soft. "No, not this time." Weeks later, spring sunlight returned to Baltimore. The city felt alive again. Near the harbor, a small food cart reopened. Tasha's Burgers, the sign restored, the umbrella no longer torn. She stood behind the grill, wearing the same cap, flipping patties as before, but this time without the earpiece, without the lies, just peace. Derek arrived, still limping slightly, a camera slung over his shoulder. "You're back in business," he said. "People missed the burgers, and I missed pretending to be normal." He grinned. "You're not very good at pretending anymore." I raised an eyebrow. "Says the reporter who became the story." "Touché." He handed her a small box. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with the single word, truth. She looked up, moved. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said. "You taught me what it really means." For a long moment, they just stood there, two people who destroyed and saved each other in equal measure, bound by a strange, dangerous truth. Finally, she smiled, really smiled this time. "You want a burger?" He laughed. "Only if it kills me slower than last time." She tossed him a wrapped one. "No promises." As he took a bite, rain began to fall again, gentle, clean, not the harsh storm from before. The world had shifted. So had they. The camera around his neck blinked red, recording, but not for fame, just for memory. He turned to her. "You ever think of quitting the agency?" She shrugged. "Every day." And then I remember, someone has to keep the wolves from the door." He nodded. "Then I'll keep telling the world about it." "Fair trade," she said softly. They watched the rain fall over the harbor, two unlikely allies sharing quiet redemption. Behind them, the city lights shimmered on the wet streets, reflections of who they were and who they had become.
Every story reminds us, never judge people by what you see on the surface. Behind every quiet face, there might be strength, pain, and purpose you can't imagine. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Your words inspire the next story. And if you love powerful stories like this one, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss the next twist that life has to offer.